This video is about hygiene, sanitation, and safety in catering establishments. This e-content has been developed under the aegis of Department of Higher Education, Haryana. Hi, I am Asha, Assistant Professor, Department of Home Science, Government College for Women, Rohtak. Let's talk about the objectives of this study first. First objective is to emphasize the importance of hygiene and sanitation in any catering institute. Then, to impart knowledge about the health hazards of unhygienic handling of food. Third can be to suggest methods of creating safer and healthier environment in catering institutions. Fourth, last but not least, is to create awareness regarding personnel hygiene. In this video, we will discuss many topics under the head Hygiene and Sanitation in Catering. We will focus on environmental hygiene, hygienic food handling, and personnel hygiene. These are the subtopics that will be studied further. Environmental hygiene and sanitation. First of all, we will learn what environmental hygiene and sanitation means. Environmental hygiene and sanitation refers to the total environment in which the food is delivered, prepared, and served in any catering establishment. Conditions or practices which are helpful in maintaining the basic healthy environmental conditions for human and for preventing any type of diseases, especially through cleanliness, form the basis of a hygienic environment. Clean water supply, proper waste disposal, protection of food from being contaminated, and clean homes or work areas, all of these define the quality of any human environment. In any catering establishment, environmental hygiene and food handling habits are the most neglected issues. Environmental hygiene leads to good health, making people more productive, which brings economic benefits to them and to the wider community. Now we will discuss various aspects of environmental hygiene in catering establishments. First one is site. If site for a food service is to be selected, then it should be examined for few factors. It should be free from air pollution. The amounts of air pollution should be minimal. Then that site must be free from potential infestation by insects and rodents. If the food service unit is a part of some large building, then location of water supply and sewage disposal lines must be checked and they must not run very close to each other. Separate sanitary conveniences for staff and guests must be provided. Location of routes of deliveries and refuse must be different, and location of storages for food also need consideration. Care must be taken that site must not constituted of filled up waste deposition pits, which can be very unhealthy and insanitary. Next is structure. In any food establishment, cleanability of floors, walls, ceilings, or any other surface is a basis for maintaining a structure that would remain free from hazards of infection. The material selected should be non-absorbent, non-corrosive, and easy to keep clean. Floors, walls, ceilings. About all these three, we have studied in the kitchen spaces also, and the video on storage and service areas. There also it was discussed. General conditions are it flow should be non-slippery, hard wearing, free from joints, and preferably in dark colors, dark plain colors should be used. And walls should be hard plaster with an emulsion finish is more suitable. Ceilings finishes should be heat resistant. Acoustical ceilings can be added on to absorb the kitchen noise. And addition to that, sewage disposal facilities, plumbing should be adequate, and sufficient hand washing facilities should be provided. While the structure may have taken into account all these hygiene and sanitation consideration, but along with that, a regular pest control treatment should also be carried out once the food is handled, prepared, and served on the premises. Equipment, furniture, and fittings. Equipments must not harbor dust or dirt. It can be the source of microorganisms, and if there is any chipped, dented, or damaged equipment, that must be discarded. Detergents prefer for cleaning instead of chemicals, as chemical residues remain in the utensils and it can also be a source of some health hazard. Manner of storage equipment is very important, how they are stored, and they must remain free from in cockroaches or rodents and some other insects. Furniture and fittings. Furniture should be fireproof, hard wearing, and noiseless. And fittings should be durable and easy to be installed. And their spare parts must be available. This care should be taken into account while installing them. Windows should not cover the floor area more than 20%, and doors should be self-closed so that there is no need to touch them unnecessary. Now we will talk about ventilation. As we all know, the ventilation is a very important aspect of any food service establishment, and it must be emphasized as it replaces the respired oxygen. It gives the inflow to fresh air current, and it also helps in eliminating the excessive heat from the atmosphere, and most important, it clears the carbon dioxide content from that atmosphere. As we all know, it's been an estimate that man is breathing normally in a room containing the 1000 cubic feet of air. That air will contain 0.6% carbon dioxide in 20 minutes, and this is a maximum permissible limit beyond which the atmosphere would be considered unhealthy for person. So one person should normally have 28.30 meters, like that is 1000 cubic feet of space, but it is not possible in catering establishments always. So, and specifically in the service area, in the peak hours, there that place is overcrowded, and kitchen is a source of steam and other type of organic impurities, but these organic impurities are not that harmful as the carbon dioxide is. So many different modes of ventilation can be used. That can be windows, vapor extracted hoods over the gas stoves, or exhaust fan can be installed, and ceiling fans also help in pushing out the warm air. If the ventilation is not proper in the kitchen or storage area, that would cause headache, giddiness, fainting, or even vomiting. Lighting. Good lighting contributes towards spatial effects, aesthetics, comfort, functionality, safety, and efficiency and visibility in the work areas or in the kitchen or storage areas and in the service areas. Every area should be well lighted to make the dirt, grease, and infestation easily detectable. Water supply. Water is used for drinking, cooking, and washing of utensils. Pure water contains only very small quantities of substances dissolved in it, and it must not injurious to health. Though pure water is desirable for each activity, but sometimes water can be impure in many ways, like if impure water is supplied by water supply department or through contaminated utensils and equipments or by the poor handling of water by staff. Generally, water contains mineral salts, dissolved gases, and organic materials dissolved in it to a certain extent which are not hazardous to health. But when this balance get disturbed or certain toxic or some hazardous chemicals or substances get dissolved in the water, it become very harmful to the health. These impurities in water can be present as a fine suspensions or dissolved in the solution. So, salts of some metals like lead, iron, zinc, they are very harmful for the health. And few other chemicals like carbonates, chlorides, or sulfates of calcium and magnesium that cause the hardness in the water. Simple temporary hardness can be removed by simple boiling, but if this hardness is or towards the higher degree, then it becomes unsuitable for drinking, cooking, and washing of equipments, and it may cause some digestive disorders. If the dissolved impurities are there, we can be removed it through the process of purification. This table gives us an idea about the impurities in water and their effects. Like mineral salts from the soils, they get dissolved into the water and they act as slow poisons. Some organic animal and vegetable matter also found in water, and they are toxic to some extent depending on their concentration. A repulsive kind of odor has been produced of that is of hydrogen sulfide. Excessive amount of chemicals used as purifiers also leave their residues like excess chlorine that affects the taste of water and food. Particles of sand, wood are also found in the water. They are just remain suspended and they will cause the irritation of bowels or diarrhea. Some pathogenic microorganisms cause cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and eggs of parasitic worms are also present in the water and make it impure, and they will cause the weakness, stomach pain, diarrhea, loss of appetite, pallor, etc. So, water can be purified through various methods: distillation, settling of impurities, or by the use of water purifiers. Dissolved impurities can be removed completely only by the process of distillation, but it's not practical for catering establishments to set up. And when we store water in storage tanks, the suspended impurities of water get settled down at the bottom, and which can be further removed by using the water purifiers. A simple water filter is good for small service outlets, but for a larger catering establishment, AquaGuard is a useful water purifier. This equipment is more convenient to use as it is wall fixed fitting, and it can be directly connected to the main water supply line. So the purified water is available whole time, continuously. Moreover, no floor space is required. So AquaGuard, it has three-stage purification process. First, the candle filter, which will filter out all the physical impurities like dirt and other particles. Then an activated carbon filter, which will absorb the organic impurities like color, odor, or free chlorine. And then finally the ultraviolet treatment, which will inactivate any bacteria or viruses, waterborne microorganisms. So there are many type of water purifiers that are available in the market, that can be RO, UV, UF, activated carbon, sediment filters. Waste disposal. Waste disposal in any catering establishment needs utmost attention, as it can be the biggest source of contamination. So kitchen waste comprises of mainly peelings, trimmings, plate waste, spillage, empty cans, bottles, or packaging materials. And these waste disposal must never be near the production, service, or storage areas. And this disposal should be done in sealed, leak-proof bags at the end of the day. Incinerators are recommended in kitchens that are associated with hospitals or some large organization to burn up the waste so as not to cross contaminate the food from the patients. Waste disposal units can be fitted to the sinks in small catering establishments, and along with that, waste compactors is also a useful equipment to crush the cans, corks, lids of the bottles, etc. Non-leaky, non-absorbent covered foot-operated paddle beans are advisable in any food establishment. Hygiene in food handling. Handling of food, materials and equipments is done by a varied number of people in any catering establishment, and this enhances the need of hygiene in food handling to reduce the hazards of spreading infections. Hygiene in food handling is required at the receiving point while we receive the food materials, in the storage area, preparation area, cooking area, holding area, serving area, clearing up section, and even at the disposal area. Principles of hygiene and sanitation need to be applied right from the point of receiving food materials in any catering establishment. And many qualities that are particularly needed to be checked for each category of items in terms of any sign for predisposing factors to contamination by microorganisms or some accidental chemical additives, weights and packings, and insect infestations. So, conscious efforts are needed to examine the perishable foods such as fresh meat, flesh, poultry, milk and milk products, fruits and vegetables. They have certain characteristics and quality checks which need to be followed for every type of food. Least handling and minimal storage period of perishable foods prevent any risk of contamination. To ensure that foods must not become hazardous to health while in storage, three important aspects have to be considered. First is temperature, second is humidity in the storage environment, third is presence or absence of any type of infestation that affects the wholesomeness of food. As we know, storage at right temperature enhances the shelf life of food. Food can be classified as perishable, semi-perishable and non-perishable. Most of the microorganisms are inactivated at the freezing point, that is 0 degrees Celsius and below. But between 1.7 degrees Celsius and 4.4 degrees Celsius, they become active but still grow slowly. They will reach to their optimum growth at the room temperature, that is 37 degrees Celsius. So, perishable foods should be stored at the temperature below 10 degrees Celsius and semi or non-perishable foods should be stored at temperatures between 10 degrees Celsius and 20 degrees Celsius. Humidity is a factor which affects the storage quality of food. Humidity means the moisture content of the air around the stored foods. Like foods which are relatively low in their moisture content have larger shelf life and they can be stored at higher temperatures like flours, sugar, spices, cereals, pulses or legumes. But when these foods absorb the moisture from the environment, they become more of a perishable type of food. And in the presence of air, microbial growth and insect infestation prevails. Thus, humidity deteriorates the quality of food through insect infestations and microbial growth, which will make the food unfit for the consumption. So, if possible, should be stored in minimum quantities and should be stored in airtight containers with a good ventilation system in the storerooms, which will lower the humidity. This presence or absence of infestation makes the food unsafe for consumption, and the type of infestation can be through insects, fleas, cockroaches, rodents, etc. And if such type of infested food is served to the customers or consumed by any other person, it may lead to food poisonings. Pests may come into the food through defective drains or holes in the food packages or bags or doors, or from the waste disposal area outside or within the kitchen. These signs of the prevalence of any infestation vary with the type of pest. Like insects can be seen in certain foods, like say flour, rice, porridges, etc. And pulses and legumes, we may see holes in them, and sometimes lumps are can be seen in the grains, and many a times the order of the food become offensive. So prevention of infestation can be controlled only through cleanliness, and it should be practiced best when there is enough light, proper ventilation, and no overcrowding in that area. Surfaces, equipment designs, method of work, and people's habits play an important role in maintaining an environment to keep it free from dust, dirt, etc. So these pests need to be controlled. Pests include the cockroaches, rodents, insects, ants and wasps. Different type of pesticides can be used for different type of pest. Like for example, for rodents, poison baits, warfarin or traps can be used. For insects, sprays, DDT or lindane can be used. To control the cockroaches, insecticide in the form of emulsions, oils, powders, and liqueurs can be used. Ants and wasps can be controlled by the use of pyrethrum. Pest control, whenever it is done, it demands extra care. Always, it should be done always under the strict supervision of pest control agencies, and a regular maintenance and cleanliness is needed. Not a single survivor left in eradication process, and no food handlers should use insecticidals. Green pesticides can be safely used without damaging the food or surfaces or people. Handling of food with proper hygiene at the stage of preparation is as important as it is on the receiving and storage platforms. It is at this stage that contamination can take place easily, even from one food to another. So every type of food requires special attention. Fresh fruits and vegetables, especially roots and tubers, which grow nearer the soil, need to be washed very thoroughly in plenty of water to remove adhering soil or other particles. And high protein foods such as eggs, milk, meat must be kept separately, as they are likely to take up microorganisms very fast and become the excellent media for their growth. If complete birds are being cleaned and prepared for cooking, The viscera must be removed and immediately sealed off for disposal. Intestines of birds and animals can be infested with worms or bacteria that may be passed on to other foods. Foods should be cooked as quickly as possible after preparation, and especially meats which may harbor the microorganisms. During these periods, in between periods, cooking incorporates higher temperatures which kill the pathogenic microorganisms. But if food is cooked insufficiently, then they may be a carrier of infection or any source of contamination. Many a times cooked food needs to be held before serving, and as all the customers do not come at the same time, and if the larger quantities are involved, foods need to be prepared and kept ready in advance. Holding temperatures, foods must not come in the danger zone of 10 degrees Celsius to 62 degrees Celsius so as to maintain the quality and safety of food. Holding temperature of 59 degrees Celsius for all cooked food is safe because of Indian cooking style. At serving stage, server can be the prime source of contamination, and serving equipments and tablewares must be clean. Clearing up. While clearing up is not an interesting activity, though it is a vital part of serving food as far as hygiene and sanitation is concerned. This area or this activity, clearing up activity, has a greatest potential for spreading infections. So care should be taken when removal of used and unused plates from the tables is done. A system in which different people remove used and unused items and dishes from the table while clearing up minimizes the chances of cross contamination of food. Plate waste should be gone to covered paddle beans or to incinerators directly. Take away food from serving dishes by willing customers also reduces the chances of contaminations. And tableware ready for washing straight from the table to the dishwashing area lowers the chances of cross contamination. Disposal. Garbage disposal should be done in a responsible manner by all the engaged staff in any catering organization with the help of municipal authorities. What method will be used for disposal depends on the methods of service adopted by the catering institution. Disposal of waste should not be transported open to safeguard the health of people. Garbage should be collected by the municipal authorities and burned in an incinerator away from the establishments. Now we will discuss an important aspect in any catering establishment, that is personal hygiene. Personal hygiene refers to the general health, personal grooming and working habits of all the people working in any catering establishment. While it is important to adopt regular procedures for maintaining the hygiene and sanitation of the environment and the processes through which the food is handled in any establishment, all these efforts would go in vain if the staff handling the food are the cause of the contamination. To safeguard food against such contamination, a few general rules will act as a guide which all persons handling food should follow strictly. All staff reporting on duty must be fresh, well groomed, and clean, not half asleep or unkempt in appearance. They must change into fresh, clean working clothes and overalls and must wear head coverings to protect the food from loose hair falling into it. Fingernails should be short and clean and no nail requires for women. Hands should be washed well with the antibacterial soap before starting the work and after using the toilets or during work. All cuts, if there is any, it should be covered with waterproof dressings. Spitting or smoking should be strictly prohibited inside the kitchen or service areas. When sneezing while handling the food, the face should be turned away from the food and a handkerchief or tissue can be used. Peoples with cold, sore throat, or boils, diarrhea, or any other gastrointestinal disorder, they should not handle the food. Leanings or sitting on the work tables must be avoided. All peels should be thrown to containers and not near the prepared food. All kitchen clothes and equipments must be washed and disinfected. Crockery, cutlery cleaned properly. And if sterilization is possible, as in the use of dish washing machines, the expense is worth in terms of hygiene. Food must be kept covered, handled correctly, and must be handled as little as possible. Toilet hygiene must be inculcated among every worker. Regular medical checkup is advised for everyone, and knowledge of food poisoning routes must be imparted. The practice of hygiene and sanitation requires vigilance in all areas of food service. Staff need to be trained so as to develop an awareness of the hazards that can occur in every possible situation. Food hygiene regulations place a heavy responsibility on every caterer to maintain certain standards, expecting him to fulfill not only moral and social responsibilities but also fulfill legal obligations also. Hygiene and sanitation is a continuous but essential process which needs serious and constant considerations at all times. E. W. Kingcott stated that no matter how much the staff are warned, unless there is a rigid kitchen routine, there will always be danger of cross contamination from raw to cooked food. The New York State Department of Health has introduced the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points HACCP form of hygiene inspection. It is a preventive program for hygiene control based on time temperature standards worked out for specific control points in conventional food production systems. The objective is to exercise control over levels of microorganisms at points in the food production and service cycles where microorganisms are likely to multiply. Theoretical and practical training of staff in hygiene and sanitary practices, followed by the strict supervision at workplaces in every area and work level of the establishment, ensures the food safety of customers. Therefore, overall responsibility for people's health rests on the food service institutions. This table enlists some good food handling practices that should be carried out in any catering establishment. With every activity, some desirable procedures are being associated, like in stock control. All the incoming foods should be dated and the stock should be used in order of dates marked on the basis of principle first in, first out. Storage activity, all the food should be stored at appropriate temperatures and foods should remain covered. In refrigeration activity, temperature should be maintained below 5 degrees Celsius and temperatures should be checked regularly, and regular maintenance of refrigerator should be done not only in the case of breakdown. Hot foods must not be put into the refrigerator, and raw and cooked food, they must be stored separately in the refrigerator. If only one refrigerator is there, as in small catering establishments, then raw food should be placed below cooked food in order to avoid contact with it. Thawing activity, food must be thawed thoroughly before cooking, and drips should not come in contact with the food because they are a potent source of microorganisms or bacteria. Cooling activity, food must be cool as quickly as possible to prevent the bacteria from growing during cooking, and hot food should not be cool more than 90 minutes before refrigeration. Small pieces can be cooled quicker than larger ones. Cooking activity, pork and poultry to a minimum cooking temperature of 75 degrees Celsius and it must be cooked well. Reheating activity, all the foods must reach at least 70 degrees Celsius for a minimum of 2 minutes. Warm holding, warm holding should be done above 60 degrees Celsius and all warm held foods unused should be discarded. Leftover activity, if there is any doubt regarding leftovers, they must be thrown out. Cross contamination, foods should be covered And one must use wiping clothes and towels that are clean. Use of tongs and gloves are desirable. Vermin. Contamination can be prevented by touching food as little as possible. It was all about the hygiene and sanitation. Now we will come to question section. Few questions can be in this way, like what do you mean by the environmental hygiene and sanitation? Why is it important to maintain good hygiene and sanitation in a catering establishment? Another question can be hygiene and sanitation play a vital role in promoting and protecting the good health and well-being of people in food establishments. Comment. Another question can be hygiene is a must in food handling. Discuss which factors should keep in mind while storing food so as not to become hazardous. Another question is what is infestation? Write the signs of infestation and how can it be controlled. One more question is there. How does handling of food at the preparation stage make it more vulnerable to contamination? Last can be write the importance of personal hygiene in any food establishment. These are references. Thank you very much. Have a good day.